Hey guys, it's me again. So this is part 2 of the How to Draw Hair series, I guess. Don't know what else to call it. So I gave it more thought, and I think I'm going to split this into 3 parts because my plans for the other drawing, the demon drawing that I started with, were pretty complicated. So I thought I'd do a basic run through how I color one color before I start doing multiple colors in hair, and maybe that would be easier to follow. Start with the basics, I guess. So you may or may not recognize this piece of art. This is something I used as a drawing demonstration in another video. So she's all inked in, and you'll see how I kind of went for a flatter, more wavy hair with her. So if you watched the last hair video, the demon had a lot more curls and a lot more floof and everything else. This girl, she's a little more understated, a little more burlesque, I don't know. So I decided to give her solid black hair, just fit her. So first of all, after I ink, and I've talked about it before, I use Pigma Micron pens generally for just flat black ink, and then I use a series of colored inks as well, like you'll see in the face. For the hair, since we're doing just straight black hair, I used the straight black ink. There's no need to do anything fancier because you're just going to color over it. Now here's a little trick. When you color black, or when I color black at least, I don't use black because black will black out all your beautiful inking work and you won't be able to see it. So like what I tend to use like this is T9 Copic. It's called Toner Gray. It's not quite black. It's almost black. There are other Copic colors that are close to black, but not quite black. So the darkest gray you can get is a good place to start. And you'll see, hopefully, you can see the lines through the gray. And it doesn't look like gray hair, it looks like a lighter black color. So you'll be able to see your, like I said, your beautiful line work come through. Now, when you look at something in nature, it's never black and white. You know, you look at a flower. What color flower is that? Yellow. Well, it's never just yellow. It's yellow and white and gold and there's flecks of red. You know, everything you look at, it's not just one solid color for the most part. So when you're thinking about coloring, you want to think about that concept of in nature, nothing is just one flat color. So when I'm coloring hair, I think about, okay, it's black hair. So what would it look like if light shone on it? What kinds of colors would reflect? For me, most common, I think of blues and I think of whites. So when I'm coloring black hair, I start by adding some blue highlights over the black hair in places where it would shine. And I'm not going super duper hard. Maybe in the middle of the areas I'm coloring. And it adds a little bit of definition and highlight, like I said. It makes the hair look more three-dimensional. It makes the hair look shiny. You kind of just look around, find all the places you feel would reflect light. You go over it with your first base color, which again, I said is blue. Now, the pencil I'm using is a Prismacolor Premier pencil. There are typically two kinds of traditional colored pencils. There's a real dry kind of colored pencil, and there's a waxy type, more like a crayon. And the waxy type will color on top of marker in a beautiful way. They can be more difficult to work with, but once you get used to them, they're really spectacular. So you'll see how the blue is coloring over the quote-unquote black. So kind of get an idea there. Okay, so just for demonstrations purposes, that's good for now. Kind of gives you an idea. Now, once again, you want to make it look three-dimensional, so we're going to add additional colors. We're going to add lighter colors and darker colors on top of this. So the next pencil I typically use is also a Prismacolor Premier, except you can see the label on this one a little bit better. This one is just flat out white. I go through a trillion of these pencils every year. They're beautiful. They color on top of almost anything. And you just kind of want to touch the middle, color the kind of the middle where it would be the brightest highlight, where the light would be reflecting in the greatest amount. And you see how that starts to sort of come together? Well, hopefully you can. It almost looks a little more like light reflecting. Okay, now, then I go back in, let's say with a darker color. Let's start with this. Now this is a Prismacolor Cull Erase pencil. Has a little eraser on it because it is an erasable colored pencil. This is a dry colored pencil. Now, one of the cool things about dry colored pencils, and I'm going to grab a little scrap piece of paper here. One of the cool things about the dry colored pencils is you can color with them. I'm coloring, oh, the color. And you can use your finger or you can use a smudge stick. And by smudge stick, I mean one of these little paper things. I think I've had 48 people ask me what the heck these are. They're smudge sticks. You use them to blend, or sometimes they call them blenders. They usually come in a little package with a funny paper sander. It's to sharpen these things. Anyways, you'll see how you can kind of smear the color to make it, I don't know, sort of fade more at the edges, which is kind of a good tool to have in some instances when you don't want a line that is just so, blunt, I guess is a good word. But, so we're going to start with this black Cull Erase colored pencil. And what I'll do is I'll start to look at the lines that I drew in originally, and I'll look for areas that I think need a little shading to add roundness and add shadow to create more of a curve. And you kind of color into the pencil you've already laid down so that it sort of blends into it. Don't go crazy. Don't go too hard unless you really want a lot of black. This video is probably shaky as heck right now. My desk is shaking like crazy. Like a crazy desk. Like it does. I also got very little sleep last night, so I'm sort of a chatterbox. Anyways, sometimes I just go in, like I said, with my finger and blend it a little bit, kind of smooths it out when you've got some pencil lines. Try and hold, see if I can steady the camera a bit. Anyways, I think you get the idea. You kind of color in areas that you want to be a little darker, add a little bit of shade, a little bit of definition. Sometimes I'll take a whole little segment that I've inked and I'll color it in super dark. And that kind of adds like, oh, hey, look, there's shadow there. That piece of hair is deeper or further back. It adds a little bit of depth. Now, I don't just use the Cull Erase pencil with the fancy eraser. I also use a black colored pencil. This particular one is Artist's Loft. It's the Michaels brand. It's very close to Crayola. It's kind of a drier color pencil. I love Crayola product. You will hear so many people badmouth Crayola, but frankly, it's my second favorite after Copic. The colors are bright. They stay colorful for a long time. They don't fade. If you get really good at controlling your hand, you don't get a lot of streaks or lines in your marker work. They're beautiful. And the colored pencils are just, they're really nice. They're really good for blending. They don't get waxy. I can go on for ages about Crayola, but honestly, I have literally been made fun of by other artists for using Crayola product, but they work so well. I don't know why they have. I guess you just need the fancy pencils, otherwise you're not a real artist. So anyways, generic Michaels pencil. So like I said, this one's a little drier, but it's not as dry as the Color Ace. So if I go in with this pencil, this particular black, it's going to make an even deeper, darker color. And you know, you can use a lighter touch and shade with it, or you can use a heavier hand and use it to make really black areas. And I think the idea is to sort of create this, what's a good word for it? This sort of combination of lighter and darker black areas so that you kind of get a variety of what you're looking at, and it creates an interesting depth. So this is not done. This would take much longer. Hair takes me the longest out of everything I do. Honestly, I was working on a commission last night. I've already spent about maybe almost 3 hours on the hair alone, and I'm not done. So I don't want to go crazy long on this video, but I think you kind of get the idea of what I mean. And you can do this with any color. If you're coloring red hair, what kind of colors would you use? Well, you'd want to use dark browns. You could use golden yellows, all sorts of, you know, maybe a little bit of white. If you want to go crazy and have fun with it, you know, you could always take black hair and make instead of using blue highlights, you could do green highlights, you can do purple highlights. It's just neat, and then it kind of adds a little splash of color and interest to your art. So I think that just about covers basic hair. You get the idea. So like I said, I think that's everything. If you ever have any questions about any of these videos I've been posting, please feel free to let me know in the comments. It's always fun to talk shop, and hopefully I can communicate my ideas in a coherent way. Anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully this weekend I'll be back with Miss Demon Girl, who I have right next to me. She's just dying for some hair color. Ooh. So, a little preview of what's to come. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.